I stood at the edge of Cedar Falls, my hometown, staring out at the gray water that churned lazily beneath the fading afternoon light. The once vibrant town I had known was now a mere shadow of its former self, much like me. The wind tugged at my jacket, the coolness biting through the fabric. It reminded me that winter was just around the corner, ushering in long, desolate days filled with memories I was desperate to bury. "What are you doing here, Walter?" I muttered to myself, the words falling flat against the still air. Nobody was around to hear my thoughts, yet I felt like I was constantly being watched. A thick knot of anger coiled in my stomach, tightening as I imagined what had become of my life and my once proud name. Cedar Falls, the town that never changes, I mused, kicking a pebble into the murky depths below. I had spent 52 years in this town. My childhood was a collage of schoolyards and playgrounds, laughter mixing with the nervous excitement of first loves and heartbreaks. But now it held the bitter taste of a life lost to betrayal, lost to failure, a life where I was reduced to an insignificant figure in a story that had turned against me. The ache in my heart ached sharper with each passing second. "Walter," a familiar voice broke through my morose thoughts. I turned to see Mark Peterson, my high school friend, or at least he used to be. Time had not been kind to him either. He had built a successful life for himself in real estate while I was left behind, mired in a darkness he couldn't understand. "Is that you?" he asked cautiously, his brow furrowed as if he was unsure whether to approach or keep his distance. "Yeah, it's me," I replied, forcing a smile, but I could tell my facade was thin. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation light even though I felt as if I had just swallowed a rock. Mark glanced at the river and then back to me, his eyes lingering a second too long. "I could ask you the same thing. I didn't know you came back. How long has it been?" "Long enough. I don't keep track." My voice was curt, edged with irritation. What did he expect? I could hear the pity in his tone, and that was the last thing I wanted. I barely made eye contact, focusing instead on the horizon where the sun was setting in shades of orange and violet, a stark contrast to the gloom I felt inside. "Maybe it is time for you to talk to someone," Mark suggested gently, his concern palpable. "You know, get things off your chest. Like a therapist," I scoffed, bitterness lacing my tone. "No thanks, I don't need someone to tell me how much of a mess I've become." I shook my head, bitterness spilling from my lips like a venomous snake. "I have my own problems. You think talking is going to change what happened?" "I'm your friend Walter," he said, taking a step closer, the warmth of his earnestness spilling over the icy wall I had built around myself. "I want to help. We all miss you." "Miss me? You mean you miss the person I used to be?" I shot back, my anger erupting like a dormant volcano. "That guy is gone. He's buried under a mountain of lies and deception." The words tore from deep within me, fueled by years of harboring resentment, pain, and a desperate need for vindication. "What happened? You seem different," he said, his brow furrowing in concern. "It's been over 10 years since the incident." "The incident?" I winced at the phrase, as if he had tossed a lit match onto a pile of dry leaves. "Right, the incident," I echoed, my voice dropping an octave, heavy with emotion. "You mean when Sean Richards and those scumbags decided it would be fun to ruin my life?" "Walter, Sean was young. He didn't mean for it to go that far. He's still defending him," I exploded, stepping forward, my hands balled into fists at my sides. I could feel the heat in my cheeks, fueled by the ever-present anger that threatened to consume what little sanity remained. "He took everything from me, everything I worked for. Look, you have to let it go. Let it go." I interrupted, my breath coming in quick gasps. "You have no idea what that feels like, Mark." He laughed while he ruined me. I can still hear his pathetic excuse for an apology echoing in my ears. "There's nothing to let go of where I'm concerned. Everything I owned, everything I believed in, all gone because of him." A shudder passed through me as I remembered the swift unraveling of my life. The shame, the betrayal, the feeling of being laid bare for everyone to observe. I felt Mark draw back defensively, his hands raised as if I had turned savage. "You need to calm down. I didn't come here to fight." "I didn't mean to snap," I huffed, motioning vaguely towards the river. "This place, it has a way of pulling me back to all the worst moments." I leaned against the railing, the metal cold against my skin. 8 years in prison for a crime I did not commit. I still struggle every day living with that. I continued, my voice quieter now, the weight of my words hanging in the air between us like thick fog. "What about Sarah? Have you thought about reaching out to her? She cared, you know that." A sharp pain flared in my chest at the mention of her name, a ghost that refused to leave. "Sarah," I whispered, my throat tightening. "How can I face her after everything, after what he did?" "You owe it to yourself and to her," Mark pressed. "Don't you want closure?" "Closure." The word felt foreign, like a distant dream that was always just beyond my reach. "What I want," I said slowly, searching for the right words, "is justice, and not the kind that a judge and jury could give." "Walter, don't talk like that. You sound desperate, unhinged." "Perhaps," I cut him off, my frustration peaking. "But you do not know what it is like to be treated like a criminal when you're innocent, to see your name dragged through the mud and watch everyone you love turn their backs on you." "You are right," Mark conceded, his voice softening as he searched my eyes. "I don't know, but revenge, that path leads to darkness. Darkness is where I've resided for too long. It has become a part of me, and maybe, just maybe, it is where I find my strength." I turned my gaze back to the river, where the water rippled ominously, mirroring the unrest bubbling within me. "I will find a way to make Sean understand the gravity of what he did." "Walter," Mark began hesitantly, "you can't. Fighting fire with fire will only burn you more in the end." "Then let me burn," I hissed, the anger dancing like flames in my belly. I stared into the distance, imagining a day when I would confront Sean, see the surprise on his face as I revealed myself not as a victim but as a survivor. He thinks I'm weak, that I've faded away to nothing. But he doesn't know me. I have plans, Mark. I'm going to rise like a phoenix from the ashes he created. Plans. He questioned, curiosity and concern wrapping around each syllable. What kind of plans? I paused, weighing my words carefully. I had only begun to hatch them, but somehow talking about them felt like unleashing a storm that had been brewing for too long. What I plan to do is reclaim what is mine, my life, my dignity, my revenge. Walter, he said again, almost pleading, you are going down a path that could lead to more heartache. Then maybe heartache is what I need, I shot back, the wind picking up as though to fortify my resolve. I have been the nice guy for far too long, and look where that has got me. The victim, the fool, the forgot. I say enough is enough. Mark fell silent, the air thick between us. I could see the consternation on his face, but I didn't care. For the first time in a long while I felt alive, a surge of clarity rushing over me like an electrifying jolt. I turned my focus back to the churning water, the deepening twilight making the surface shimmer with promises of vengeance. This wasn't just a passing thought, this was something I needed to see through. If you want to help me, I need your support, I need someone to have my back. And you think that's wise? He asked incredulously, shaking his head. Walter, this isn't just some game, you could lose everything you have left. I have nothing left to lose, I replied, the weight of the words settling like a lead blanket on my shoulders. I have reached the bottom, and there is only one way to go from here. Just think about this for a moment, Mark pleaded, gazing into my eyes as if he could reach my soul and pull me back from the abyss. I care about you, and this is you. Then maybe you don't know who I am anymore, I said coldly, pulling away from him. I'm not that guy you used to know. I'm a man reborn from the ashes of what you see before you. He took a step back, casting a sideways glance at the river. I want to see you happy again, Walter, but when revenge comes into play, it doesn't end well for anyone. You might get what you believe is justice, but at what cost? I will take that cost, I said decisively, feeling like the darkness that had haunted me for years was finally giving me purpose. And I will make him understand what it means to take, to destroy. To ruin lives. After a moment of silence, I could see him struggling with what to say next. Just consider. Goodbye, Mark, I cut him off, turning my back to him and stepping toward the railing. I know what I need to do. It's time to become the man I've been waiting for and the man Sean fears most. The chill in the air felt invigorating as I stared out at the water. I could almost hear the whispers of vengeance echoing from its depths. My heart raced, pounding like a war drum, ready to rally me into the battlefield I had been avoiding for far too long. Cedar Falls had witnessed my fall, but it would also bear witness to my rise. This swath of darkness would not swallow me whole. Instead, I would emerge triumphant. Sean had taken everything from me, and now I would be the one to take it all back, one way or another. Walter Grant leaned against the cool brick wall of the alley, the stale scent of garbage wafting past him as he caught his breath. He watched the evening traffic hum quietly on Main Street, the glow of street lamps warming the dusky scene like the last fading embers of a fire. It was a typical night in Cedar Falls, but for Walter it marked the beginning of something that twisted his gut with both excitement and dread. This is it, he whispered to himself, his voice barely louder than a whisper, but it held an enthusiasm that echoed in the silence. Walter's heart raced as the image of Nate Turner flashed vividly in his mind, that smug smile, the confident stride. Nate was everything Walter was not, ambitious, charming, and utterly ruthless when it came to business. They had crossed paths multiple times in the real estate game, where Walter once thrived but now felt like a mere shadow, eclipsed by Nate's successes. One wrong investment, one opportunity lost, and everything Walter had built slipped through his fingers like sand. He clenched his fists, the memory igniting his determination. You may have taken everything from me, but I am not finished yet, Walter growled. A rattle of metal interrupted his thoughts as the back door of the diner swung open, spilling out a waft of burgers sizzling on the grill and the sound of clattering dishes. The young waitress, her apron stained from a long shift, stepped out to clear her head. Her shoulders sagged, and she let out a long breath as if the weight of the world pressed against her. Walter felt a tug of sympathy. He could recognize struggles etched into her features. Everything okay? He asked, trying to soften the sudden tension in the air. She jumped slightly, startled at first. Oh, just a long shift, you know how it is. She smiled weakly, a flicker of warmth that briefly cut through the chill in the alley. I think I left my soul back in there somewhere. Walter chuckled softly. You might want to check under the fryer, things tend to get lost there. She laughed, and it felt good to share a moment of brightness. I am Jenna, by the way. You're a regular around here. I used to be, Walter replied, forcing a smile, but I've been more of a ghost lately. Nobody likes a ghost, she said, and her eyes sparkled with mischief. Guess it's time to haunt some new places then. Walter felt a shot of surreal connection as they continued to banter. Yeah, I think I might just do that. A little haunting here and there could spice things up. But as the conversation faded, the weight of his own plans pressed onto him once more. Listen, Jenna, have you heard of Nate Turner? Her smile faltered. The real estate guy? Yeah, I think I heard he's bought half the downtown properties. He's a big deal, right? You could say that, Walter replied, trying to keep his tone light despite the bitterness swirling in his stomach. But that's not his only claim to fame. She glanced at him, curiosity dancing in her eyes. What do you mean? Walter hesitated, the struggle within him pricking at his conscience. Then he ventured, he's sort of the reason my life went downhill. If I had a decent shot, I could have beaten him long ago. Jenna crossed her arms, her expression shifting to one of skepticism. Sounds like you've got some unfinished business with him. What do you plan to do about it? He let out a breath, the question hitting him hard. There was a time when he'd have a clear path to vengeance, a meticulous blueprint forming in his mind. I am figuring that part out. It involves some digging into his dealings, perhaps some creative solutions. So you intend to get back at him? Sounds risky, she replied, her voice edged with concern. What do they say? Fortune favors the bold. Walter shrugged, trying to play it cool despite the knot of uncertainty tightening in his chest. Yeah, but it could also bite you hard, she cautioned, her face earnest. Walter appreciated her concern but felt invincible. Let it bite. I need to reclaim what he took from me. Just be careful, okay? She implored, her dark eyes sincere. You don't want to lose yourself in the mess. I promise I will, Walter said, then turned his mind back to Nate. But I need to find the weakness, the crack in his foundation. After a few more minutes of casual talk, Jenna excused herself to head back inside, reminding Walter of the realities waiting for him in the diner. Good luck with the haunting, she teased as she pulled the door shut behind her. He had given her no insight into the looming storm he planned to unleash on Nate, but her words rang in his ears as he paced back to his car. Part of him wanted to fit into this normal life, to enjoy late-night diner humor. Yet another part bled for retribution, clouded with thoughts of stolen opportunities and sleepless nights consumed with frustration. Inside his aging sedan, the leather seats smelled of familiar sweat stains and echoed the road trips he once took to escape Cedar Falls. But tonight, he adjusted the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of himself and the weariness etched into his features. Was there a glimmer of the man he used to be, the confident, ambitious realtor who had it all? He leaned back, let out a long sigh, and whispered, time to change the narrative. He gripped the wheel, tapping his fingers nervously against the steering column. He had a plan. No, this was bigger than a plan. It was a strategy. The potential connections he could leverage. Walter shoved the indignation that burned within him into his thoughts, rolling through a mental checklist as he began to drive toward his destination. First, he needed intel. Time to turn over some stones, he murmured, weaving through Cedar Falls until he reached the bridge overlooking the river, the water glistening under the faint glow of the moonlight, the gentle lapping of water against the rocks, a soothing reminder of stability amid chaos. Taking a deep breath, he pulled into the parking lot of the small community library, a place once familiar but long forgotten. Walter stepped outside, the chill of the autumn air wrapping around him as he mingled with the sounds of rustling leaves. The library seemed to emanate a homey warmth, its old brick exterior exuding a comforting nostalgia. He pushed through the door, the bell above jangling softly, and was welcomed by the scent of aged books and polished wood, a sensory pleasure that transported him to quieter hours spent lost within stories. Good evening, Mr. Grant, a voice broke through his reverie. It was Mrs. Morgan, the elderly librarian who sat at the front desk, her glasses perched precariously at the tip of her nose. Come to find a good mystery. Something like that, Mrs. Morgan, Walter replied, managing a polite smile. Actually, I hope to dig into some business records. Anything on local real estate, preferably on Nate Turner. Ah, the man with the golden tongue and shiny properties, she muttered, eyes narrowing. What business do you have with him? Just looking into some past dealings, you know how it is. Watch your back with him, she warned with a wisdom that came only from age. He doesn't play nice. Believe me, that is the plan, he assured her, taking her cautious tone seriously. With a grunt, she turned, shuffling toward the back of the library, leaving Walter to admire the occasional flickers of ancient chandeliers hanging above. The walls were lined with bookshelves that reached toward the ceiling, each title waiting to spill secrets only to be read by those willing to delve deep. Moments later, Mrs. Morgan emerged with a box file in her hands. Dust billowed from its edges as she placed it in front of him with a gentle thud. This comes from a time before all the new regulations were enforced. It might not include everything you want, but it should have some useful clues. Walter opened the file, flipping through grainy old papers bearing the faint prints of long-dead fingertips. As he scanned the faded documents, his pulse quickened. This was the treasure he needed, the untold stories hidden beneath layers of gloss and charm that Nate projected to the world. Each crumb of information felt like a stepping stone. Do you know what you are looking for exactly? Mrs. Morgan asked, settling herself discreetly in the passenger chair beside him, her interest piqued. Searching for patterns, corruption, maybe even illegal dealings. There must be something Nate has hidden away. Careful now, she cautioned again, her tone serious. People rarely forgive, they remember, and Nate is a grudge haver. Perhaps he should learn to forget, Walter murmured, his mind racing with vengeance once more. As he continued his sleuthing, time slipped away. Several papers in, a name caught his eye. The Hensley deal. Sweat trickled down his back, memories flooded back, a shady arrangement, whispers of backroom deals and corners cut. Nate Turner had orchestrated a property flip shrouded in darkness, and Walter had doubted his instincts back then. He should have acted. Would you look at this? He said, showing the document to Mrs. Morgan. Do you think he ever paid for this one? More than likely if it involves him, she replied with a shake of her head, disappointment mingling with admiration for Walter's persistence. He has a knack for sliding out of responsibility. Walter slammed the file shut, the crack echoing through the quiet library. His thoughts raced as he stared at the old photographs and maps meticulously pinned on the sides. This is it, he exclaimed, pushing back from the table, determination pulsing through his veins. I can start digging, see where the lies take me. Just tread lightly, Mr. Grant, Mrs. Morgan warned, but Walter was already moving, the fire within him roaring, all too eager to cool that insidious grin off Nate's face for good. He left the library, ambling into the night, satisfaction curling at the corners of his mouth. He had unearthed crucial leads, and each question now had its answer spiraling around Nate and the corruption that festered under Cedar Falls' shiny surface. You think you can take me down? Watch and learn, Walter whispered to the moonlit sky, an echo of his vow reverberating in every fiber of his being. The thrill of the chase awakened something deep within him, a flicker of the man he used to be, but reinforced with the power of bitterness and regret. Whatever it took, he would reclaim his honor. As he drove home, he took one last glance over his shoulder into the darkened skyline of Cedar Falls, believing that change was imminent, and that the taste of failure would soon turn to the sweet satisfaction of victory. I had been waiting for this moment, this sweet turn of fate that I believed was going to change everything. As I sat in the back of Jensen's bar, my fingers wrapped around a glass of whiskey, the ice clinking softly against the crystal, I could feel the tingling anticipation in my veins. The dim light above the bar cast an amber hue over everything, and the thick, musky scent of spilled beer and old wood felt strangely comforting and familiar. Cedar Falls had a way of wrapping its arms around you when you were down, like an old friend that you could never truly shake off. But tonight, it felt different. Tonight was about retribution. I shifted in my seat, tapping my fingers against the condensation that formed on the glass, the rhythm matching the thumping of my heart. I had a plan, a simple but devilishly effective scheme that would finally put an end to the torment that had haunted me for years. I glanced toward the entrance, my heart racing at the thought of him walking in. Joshua Peters, my old high school nemesis, had the uncanny ability to unknowingly rip open old wounds with every infuriating smile and smug laugh. He didn't know he had a target on his back. He had no idea that I was the one with the bow ready to take him down. I swirled the whiskey around, watching the ice chase each other across the bottom of the glass like my thoughts racing back to our shared past. Memories flooded my mind. The bullying, the laughter I wasn't part of, the dreams I had buried underneath the weight of his taunts. I still remember the day he had completely destroyed me in front of the entire class. It was during my junior year when I dared to ask Sarah Donovan, the most beautiful girl in school, to the prom. I stood there at the front of the class, trembling, my heart in my throat as I faced my classmates, waiting for the bell to ring. Joshua had strutted right up, that cocky grin plastered across his face. Walter thinks he can take you to the prom, Sarah. He doesn't even own a decent pair of shoes. Everyone erupted in laughter, and in that moment my heart shattered. I had worn my best shoes, the only ones I owned that weren't scuffed, and here I was, labeled as the outcast by the king of the school. From then on, it was years of humiliation, navigating through hallways where I felt like a ghost while Joshua basked in the attention. I straightened up as I noticed the familiar silhouette slipping through the door. There he was, wearing an expensive suit that tailored his frame perfectly, hair slicked back like he was ready for a magazine cover. The confidence dripped off him, blinding like the midday sun. My breath caught in my throat as anger bubbled up within me. Tonight was not just about righting the wrongs of the past. Tonight was my chance to show him what it meant to be on the receiving end of his torment. Hey, Walter, a cheerful voice jolted me back to reality. I turned to find Marissa, my old high school friend, a bright smile illuminating her face as she approached my table. She always had a way of lifting my spirits, but today there was a different kind of weight in the air that made it hard to smile back. It's been ages. What are you doing here? And is that whiskey I see? She grinned, glancing at my glass. Her blonde curls bounced gently as she sat across from me, her eyes searching mine. I chuckled, trying to shake off my darker thoughts, but Marissa's presence reminded me of everything. Just taking a load off, you know, the usual scanning for potential investments, I said, lifting the glass to take a sip, savoring the warmth it sent across my chest. What about you? Oh, you know. Catching up with some old friends and trying to put some distance between me and the grind of everyday life. Can you believe how fast time flies? We graduated almost a decade ago. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Are you here for the reunion? Because I heard Joshua would be here. I mean, he's kind of a big deal now with his company. The mention of Joshua made my palms sweat. I forced a casual smile as I stirred the whiskey with the straw. Yeah, I guess so. I heard he's doing well. Good for him. The bitterness seeped into my words like a slow poison that made me want to pull back, but I had to keep my composure. Revenge was a simmering temptation that had taken root deep inside me. Marissa laughed, the sound like music I had forgotten how to appreciate. Good for him, more like good for everyone. The guy hardly ever fails to charm the whole room, she said, rolling her eyes. But if I'm being honest, I never really liked him. He and his crew thought they were gods. She leaned back in her seat, and for a split second I saw the fierce defiance in her eyes, a flicker of rebellion against all that had made our high school years painful. Yeah, well, that charm can be deceiving, I said, lifting my gaze back toward Joshua, who was now leaning casually against the bar, laughing with some of his old friends while glancing around the room. What goes around often comes around. Are you planning to confront him? Marissa cocked her head, her expression shifting to concern. You know how things can get ugly. Sometimes it is better to let the past stay buried. She spoke thoughtfully, but there was an edge to her concern that made me bristle. Did she understand what he had put me through all those years? Could she ever know the depth of that hurt? I shook my head, forcing a smile. It's just a chat, nothing serious, just a little closure, you know how it is. I waved it off, yet I felt my heartbeat quicken, my internal conflict pulling me in two directions, one that spoke of mercy and the other that sang sweet, dark songs of vengeance. But enough about me. What about you? Your life? Any tales of intrigue? I changed the subject quickly, seeking a distraction from my intentions. Marissa's expression brightened, and she began recounting tales from her recent travels abroad, exploring quaint little cafes in Paris and discovering beautiful landscapes in Tuscany. I listened intently, admiring the way she animatedly spoke, her cheeks flushing with excitement. But even as she painted vivid images of laughter and joy, my mind was elsewhere, fixated on the figure standing by the bar. I watched Joshua laugh effortlessly, surrounded by those who marveled at his every word, unaware of the weight he had cast upon me through his cruelty over the years. I squeezed the glass tightly, my knuckles whitening, as I listened to Marissa's voice blend into faded echo, drowning beneath the pulsating anger building inside me. I hadn't just come to this bar for an ordinary reunion. I had sought out my fears and insecurities, as it was time to confront the demons of my past head-on. Walter. Marissa's voice pulled me out of my reverie again, her brow furrowed in concern. "Are you okay? You seem a little lost in thought." With a deep breath, I forced myself to meet her gaze. "Yeah, I'm fine, just thinking about some things later." I gave a tight smile, trying to keep the conversation light. "What do you say we grab another drink? I could use something stronger." She smiled back, her concern seemingly fading as she nodded enthusiastically. "Right, let's do it." Her excitement made me feel a little lighter, but inside, the tension was still building like a storm, swirling with each passing moment. As we ordered another round, I kept one eye on Joshua, who was now pulling out his phone, his laughter ringing louder as he was likely snapping photos with his friends. I couldn't shake the nagging reminder that I was still living in his shadow, and soon I would finally emerge from it. "Walter, are you sure you're all right? You don't seem yourself." Marissa snapped me from my thoughts once more, her brow furrowed deeper. "I mean it, Marissa, I'm fine," but a tremor in my voice betrayed my facade. "Just got some stuff on my mind, you know how life can be," I said, trying to persuade her while pushing down the flames of rage bubbling underneath. After our drinks arrived, Marissa continued talking, her voice a comfort through the tension that wrapped around my core like a constrictor. I nodded, smiling politely, but my mind was racing. How would I make my move? How could I execute my plan? I needed precision. I needed the element of surprise. And with every moment that passed, the anticipation grew thicker, settling into my bones, a familiar feeling of excitement and dread intertwining. "Okay, Walter," she said suddenly, breaking into my reverie again, her eyes glinting with determination. "If you are going to confront him, you have to show him that you have grown and moved on." She reached across the table, placing her hand gently on mine, grounding me as feelings of determination battled with hesitation. "Show him that you are not that same kid from high school anymore. Don't let him see he has any power over you." Her words brought a warmth to my chest, but I feared they wouldn't be enough. I was still grappling with the resentful urges that churned within me, thoughts of revenge whispering promises of satisfaction. "You really think I can do that?" I murmured, looking into her eyes, which held encouragement and support. "Absolutely. And when you do, you will feel so much lighter afterward. Let it go, take that weight off your shoulders." She smiled, but it felt like she had no idea how heavy my burden was, the ghosts of the past still tightly wrapped around my heart. I looked back to where Joshua stood with that familiar devil-may-care attitude and smirk that infuriated me. He turned his back toward me, his laughter echoing throughout the bar, and for a fleeting moment I felt the urge to leap up, confront him, and unleash everything that had been bottled up inside for so long. I wanted him to feel the shame that he had cast upon me, to finally get the upper hand. But then again, everything had to be planned perfectly. I couldn't just rush it. It had to be just right. With a slight tremor in my chest, I decided that the best course of action would be to wait a little longer, to watch him from a distance and observe his movements. If I learned anything through all the years of bullying, it was that he was predictable, always had to be the center of attention. I could use that to my advantage. "Let's go say hi." Marissa's voice broke through, her enthusiasm infectious. She was already standing up, pulling me along with her as she practically floated toward the group where Joshua indulged in his conversation. My heart raced, a cacophony of fear and exhilaration thundering through me as we approached. "Walter," Joshua exclaimed as we neared, his tone dripping with casual friendliness as he turned to face me. "Long time no see, how have you been?" "Not too shabby," I replied, forcing my voice to remain steady, aware of the urgency in my mind urging me to say something powerful. But I couldn't just jump right in. I had to gauge the moment, read the room. I felt like a chess player setting the pieces in a strategy. "You look great, man," he said, his gaze sweeping over me, perhaps a hint of surprise evident in his eyes. "I didn't think you'd show up. Pretty impressive." The undercurrent of mockery in his words didn't go unnoticed, but I breathed through the impulse to retort. I needed calm determination, not recklessness that would lead to more humiliation. "Thanks, Joshua." "It's good to see you too." I forced a smile, and Marissa quickly stepped in with a spirited comment that broke the moment, lightening the mood. She launched into some gossip about our hometown, and I let her take the lead, gathering myself while watching Joshua interact with his group. But my chance was coming. Soon I would show him the man I had become, and I would break the chains that had restrained me for far too long. The air inside Walter Grant's dimly lit study was heavy with smoke from the flickering candle on his desk, casting eerie shadows on the walls lined with dark oak bookshelves. It smelled of aged paper, leather bindings, and a hint of something metallic, perhaps the residue of the small gadget he had just finished tinkering with. As I settled into one of the high-backed chairs that creaked under my weight, I could feel my heart thundering against my ribcage, the thought of what was to come bubbling like a pot about to boil over. Walter had betrayed me not just through lies but by severing the very fabric of trust we had woven over decades. I could still hear his condescending chuckle echoing in my mind, mocking my naive belief in our friendship. Walter, I called, my voice steady but laced with a simmering fury. He looked up from his workbench, where he had been fiddling with strange contraptions and intricate diagrams with an ease that belied their complexity. Are you ready for this? Walter straightened, his eyes narrowing. Are you really sure you want to go down this path? He asked, his tone almost teasing. He always had a skill for deception, a talent for twisting words to fit his own narrative. Once we cross this line, there is no going back. I leaned forward, my fingers lacing together in front of me. You crossed that line when you decided to turn your back on me, Walter. Have you forgot how much we mean to each other? Or did that mean nothing to you? A silence swept through the study, thick and uncomfortable. I could see the gears in Walter's mind turning. He was a master of manipulation, able to soothe and charm those around him, but I would not be swayed. I could feel my resolve hardening like iron in a furnace. You act like you have so much to lose, he finally said, his voice low, the humor replaced by a hint of unease. But what about me, Michael? You think I wanted to betray you? This was survival, plain and simple. Survival, the word echoed in my mind, casting a shadow over my motives, but I couldn't let that sway my purpose. It doesn't matter, I replied, my voice strong. You made your choice and now I'm going to make mine. You took my life, my reputation. I am taking something back. Walter stepped back almost imperceptibly. What are you talking about? I pulled out the small device I had constructed over the past few nights, its surface gleaming faintly in the candlelight. It was a christening of sorts, the culmination of my rage, my bitterness, twisted into something lethal yet elegant. This, I said, holding it between us. This is where the truth comes to light, a little invitation for our mutual friends to see just how deep your betrayal runs. Walter's eyes widened. You wouldn't. Watch me, I snapped, feeling the heat of anger flare again in my chest. You've played your games, now it's time for me to play mine. You may have fooled them, but I will not be another pawn in your twisted scheme. His face darkened, realizing the extent of my endeavor. Do you know what you're doing? You have no idea what kind of hell you could unleash. This isn't a game anymore. Maybe you're right, I admitted, my voice suddenly quiet, but my conviction stronger than ever. But I'm ready to face whatever comes next. I won't sit by and watch you ruin more lives for your own gain. Lives, he laughed, but it was forced. This is about your pathetic need for revenge. You think you're doing anyone a favor, you're just being selfish. You're the one who selfishly used everyone, Walter. I shot back, feeling my anger morph into a poignant sorrow. You turned our friends against each other, left them broken and confused. You wanted power and control, and you used me to get it. What are you suggesting? I stood, letting the device drop into my palm like a hot coal. I'm suggesting you face the consequences of your actions. I want everyone you deceive to know who you really are. Walter stretched his neck as if preparing for a fight, the tension coiling between us. And you think this device will change anything? They won't care about your words. They will only remember that the man who betrayed them is standing right in front of them, and you are the one who unleashed this chaos. I took a deep breath, steadying the whirlwind of emotions within. I had rehearsed this confrontation in my mind countless times, but nothing could prepare me for the raw chill of realization. Maybe they will remember, I conceded. But it is your truth, Walter, not mine. I could have kept quiet, let the dust settle. Instead, I am going to make sure everyone knows what you did. Are you so sure of yourself? He taunted. You think the world will turn against me because of your little stunt? I have supporters, people who trust me, and they will stand by me. Do you really want to wager your future on some tattered memories and lies? I took another step forward, feeling the connection, whatever semblance of brotherhood we had once shared, snap like a dried twig beneath our feet. If they do stand by you, it may be for the last time. Your empire has grown fragile, Walter. The moment I hit play on this device, those loyal to you will see everything. They will see you for the snake you are. No, you wouldn't dare move forward with this, he whispered, a cold edge creeping into his voice. The real question is, I interjected, holding his gaze, are you willing to see the consequences? This might be the last night either of us survives in this circle. Either you end this toxic hold you have over everyone, or I will expose the truth. If we both perish, at least my death would serve a purpose far greater than yours ever could. Walter's face contorted in a blend of rage and disbelief. You think this will fix anything? This will only destroy you. I felt a shiver with his words, a glimpse of fear beneath the anger. Perhaps, but this is about more than me now. I won't let you continue draping those lies over our friends. If they go down with you, so be it, but they deserve the chance to choose who they want to align with. You took that choice from me when you decided to play God with our lives. I engineered betrayal, that's what you think you're doing. He challenged, stepping closer, invading my personal space in a futile attempt to intimidate me. Eager to hold my ground, I didn't budge. What do you think? This isn't bioengineering, it's simply getting rid of a virus, and I will not let you infect anyone else. The tension in the air crackled, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows across Walter's face, illuminating the battle of emotions warring within him, fear, anger, and beneath it all a hint of guilt. I felt a surge of triumph wash over me. I knew I was hitting close to home. Michael, he pleaded, softer now, his voice edged with a desperate edge. If you go through with this, you will fumble your connections, your reputation. You won't find joy, you'll only find emptiness. I stepped back, the weight of his words pressing down on me like an anvil, but my heart remained steadfast. Tell me, what joy have you found in your climb to power? What joy is there in forsaking friendship for fortune? I took a breath, feeling the sudden break in tension mirror the storm I felt swirling inside. This brings me joy because it brings my truth to the surface. Walter's eyes flickered, a hidden conflict playing behind them. So you think you are the hero of this story? What happens when the dust settles and you realize you are no different from me? I may carry a burden now, I admitted, recalling the myriad faces of those he had wronged. But I never set out to destroy them, Walter. Do you even remember who the victim is here? You've become obsessed, Michael, he hissed, a fire igniting in his gaze again. He was on the precipice of something, and I could feel the danger lurking behind his bravado. Don't forget your own thirst for revenge has its consequences too. Consequences I am willing to shoulder, I replied, my conviction forging a firm anchor in my heart. For far too long I have stood in shadows, chained by loyalty to your deception. No more. As the words sunk in, I watched a flicker of fear in Walter's eyes before it hardened into something darker. Then you leave me no choice. His hands, now tense at his sides, stood ready to defend the empire he had built over years of manipulation. Choice, that's rich coming from you, I spat back, feeling my heart race. But remember this, Walter, I am ready to burn it all down if it means taking you with me. He shook his head, and for just a moment I saw the man I had once called a brother, a friend buried beneath layers of bitterness and greed. But I quickly squashed that flicker of sympathy. It was an illusion. Then let's see who comes out on top, he declared, steeling himself. I stood there, the flame of righteousness stoked, ready for battle. Oh, this is not about winning or losing, Walter. This is about recovery. This is about freeing everyone from your twisted reign. Walter inhaled sharply, and I could sense his hesitation. Perhaps he finally understood the stakes. You truly believe you can just smash this facade, ruin years of silence for what? A petty revenge. Not petty, I insisted, passion bursting forth like wildfire along with the realization that this torment had captivated my life long enough. This is about restoration. You've painted everyone else as a villain. You are the one who needs to be exposed. With one decisive motion, I moved towards the device, my instincts resolute. As my finger hovered over the button, I stole a glance at Walter. He had backed away, calculating his next move. You really think this changes anything? It will damage what you've built too. The truth hung heavy in the air between us, a bitter reminder of the choices we had both made. What's left to save? I replied, steeling myself. You killed what we had long ago, you just didn't know it yet. And as my breath hitched my resolve, I pressed the button, feeling an invisible line being drawn in the sand between us. The truth was going to be unleashed, and whatever happened next, the end of Walter Grant's reign had finally arrived. The air in the old warehouse was thick with dust, and the fluorescent lights flickered overhead like dying stars, casting erratic shadows on the concrete floor. I stood at the center of the room, a place that had once been bustling with life but now felt like a graveyard of broken dreams and forgotten futures. This was it, the moment for my revenge had finally arrived. My heart raced as I anticipated Walter Grant's arrival, the man whose betrayal had shattered my life. I had spent weeks orchestrating this. Every detail mattered. I couldn't leave anything to chance. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It ticked down slowly, taunting me with its rhythmic persistence. Come on, Walter, you're never late for this kind of meeting, I muttered under my breath, my voice echoing in the emptiness. I clenched my fists, the rough texture of my leather gloves grounding me against the rising tides of anxiety. Finally, the sound of footsteps echoed through the large, empty space. I could hear a soft murmur of voices, and my heart skipped a beat. There he was, Walter Grant. He stepped into view, his broad shoulders silhouetted by the dim light, and to his left, a lanky figure I recognized instantly as Tom, his loyal henchman. The sight of them sent a surge of adrenaline through my veins. I was ready, Walter. Over here, I called out, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. His eyes widened just a fraction, which I savored. I could see the flicker of recognition, the slightest hint of confusion. It was as if he had stepped into a forgotten nightmare when he thought he had escaped. Who the hell are you? Walter asked, folding his arms across his chest, posture rigid, his brow furrowing as he scanned the space like a hawk searching for prey. I don't have time for games. Oh, Walter, this is no game. I stepped forward, pushing aside a heavy metal door and allowing the smell of rust and decay to give me strength. This is payback for all the lives you've ruined, mine in particular. You remember me, don't you? As I drew closer, I could see the memory wash over his face. Kelsey, he finally breathed, recognition dawning in his eyes but quickly replaced by something darker. What do you want? My heart raced as I smiled at him, a cold and calculating smile devoid of warmth. I want to show you that I have more strength than you ever gave me credit for, Walter. You think of me as a victim, the girl you trampled over to climb to the top, but I'm not that girl anymore. Tom shifted nervously beside him, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. Walter, maybe you should go, she doesn't look stable. His anxious voice only fueled my determination. I turned my gaze away from Walter to Tom, an edge of amusement creeping into my expression. Stable, what a funny word to use, but you're wrong, it's you who are unstable, Tom. You don't know what I've been preparing for, do you? I could feel the power surging through me, a heady mix of fear and exhilaration. Walter interrupted, his tone dripping with disbelief. What the hell have you done, Kelsey? What are you talking about? Why don't I show you? I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small device. LED lights blinked ominously as I held it up for them to see. Their eyes went wide. Do you remember how you used to control everything, Walter? How you made everyone fear you? Well, now those tables have turned. No, Walter's voice softened, and I saw the crack of fear begin to widen in his chest. You wouldn't dare. Oh, but I would. You left me with nothing, Walter. You made sure I lost everything, the job, the friends, my self-respect. Now I'm going to make you feel a fraction of that. I pressed a button. The room hummed to life with a deep, resonating growl. The sound echoed around us, and my heart swelled with triumph. A wall slid open to reveal a hidden chamber filled with screens and blinking lights. My secure network, my plan, complete access to all his accounts, the companies he had manipulated, stolen from right under everyone's noses. No, you can't, that's illegal, Tom shouted, stepping forward as if to protect Walter. You have no idea what you're doing, don't you see? That's the beauty of it. I know exactly what I'm doing, and it feels incredible. I I turned back to Walter, leaning close enough to see the fear etched on his face. Every shady business, every crooked deal, every life you destroyed will be exposed. I'm going to make sure everyone knows the real Walter Grant. Walter's bravado was fading, and I could hear the tremor in his voice when he finally spoke. You can't do this. You think you're strong now, Kelsey. You're just a woman lost in the shadows of my success. Your success, I scoffed. Is that what you call it? There's nothing successful about living on top of a mountain of lies. And you know what? The higher you climb, the harder you fall. Your empire is crumbling, Walter. A desperate look crossed his face. You think this will work? You think taking me down will make your life better? It won't bring your life back. It's not just about my life, Walter. It's about everyone you crushed under your heel. It's about justice. I could feel my pulse quicken as adrenaline coursed through me, and I'll make sure you pay for every single misdeed. Please, Kelsey, Tom pleaded, his voice rising with frustration. You're better than this. You could still walk away. We could work together. You don't have to do this. His tone was frantic, and for a moment I saw the flicker of desperation. But it only reinforced my resolve. There was no going back now. Together, I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. You've got it all wrong, Tom. This isn't about rebuilding or moving forward with you. This is about breaking down everything he built and showing him for who he really is. You don't get to be the good guy in this story. Walter stepped forward, his voice laced with anger. You're making a big mistake, Kelsey. You don't know the power I hold. I'll ruin you. I didn't flinch. You think I haven't already lost everything. You think I care about a loss. You took my life, Walter, and now I'm taking yours. As I pressed another button, a flurry of activity erupted from the screens. Security footage began playing, capturing every dark deal, every shady exchange, revealing the truth behind his empire. I was ready to smash him where it hurt the most, the truth. The footage would leak to news stations, social media, expose the corruption throughout Cedar Falls. I could almost taste that sweet victory. Walter's figure seemed to shrink as the realization sank in. No, no. He shouted, scrambling to reach the device, but I was ready. I took a step back and pointed a finger toward him. You can't stop it, Walter. This will be your undoing. What will you do when they come for you, huh? Are you prepared to face the consequences? You think a judge will care about your sob story? They will listen to the evidence. My voice trembled but strong still. And I'll be ready. I'll fight back. You're just a pathetic little girl, he sneered, and the venom in his words rolled off him like water off a duck's back. You don't know what you're messing with. You're right about one thing, Walter. My voice was steady, eerily calm as I watched the fear drip from his eyes. I may have been weak once, but weakness doesn't mean I am not capable. It fuels my fire now. Walter glanced at Tom, their earlier confidence evaporating. We need to leave, he muttered, urgency now heavy in his voice. Oh no. You're not going anywhere until this is finished. I pointed towards the screens, watching as the footage continued to roll, the pieces of his shattered facade laid bare for all to see. For too long you have escaped the reckoning, Walter. It's time to face the tide. Shut it down, he shouted, frustration punctuating his voice. You can't do this. You don't understand what you're getting into. You think I'm afraid of you, Walter. You think I'll cower like I once did. I felt empowered, stronger than I had in years. Every ounce of fear had shifted into determination. You don't hold the power here anymore. Today is my day. With that, I turned back to the screens, reveling in the chaos that was Walter's face as he realized the walls were closing in. The footage continued to spin around, exposing everything, his associates' names, their corrupt acts, the shell companies that propped up his lie. This won't hold up in court, Kelsey. I'll bury you, he growled, his voice dark and strained. But even through his bravado, I saw the cracks. His hands trembled slightly, the fight slipping away. And the truth will shine bright, Walter. It always does. You taught me that. I stepped closer. And remember, I will be there, standing tall while you sink into the abyss of your making. No, his tone faded into disbelief, my victory tangible in the air. You think you can walk away from this? I never wanted to walk away, Walter. I want to see you destroyed. Watching you crumble is more satisfying than anything you could ever inflict on me. I've beaten you at your own game. With one last glare of defiance, I felt the years of darkness flooding away. The tumult of my past, the pain of betrayal, the relentless fear, everything collapsed away, replaced by the exhilarating weight of vindication. I turned back to the blinking screens, feeling triumphant. The truth could no longer be silenced. As Walter took a staggering step back, Tom's arm shot out, grabbing Walter's shoulder. What do we do? He whispered, panic setting into his voice. Run, Walter responded, his voice barely a whisper. Just run. But there was nowhere left to hide. Their empire was crumbling, and I reveled in the moment, the unexpected twist of fate that had led me here. They would face the consequences of their actions, and I would stand at the center of their downfall, no longer the girl they exploited but a force to be reckoned with. Run if you want, I called after them, my voice filled with the strength I had found. But your time is up, Walter. Cedar Falls will hear the truth, and when they do, I'll be there, waiting to remind everyone just how low you've fallen. As I watched them retreat, the weight of my choices settled over me like a warm blanket, wrapping me in both victory and relief. I inhaled deeply, savoring the scent of dust and steel, the bitter taste of revenge mingling with the sweet scent of freedom. The unexpected twist was not just in this moment, it was the beginning of my rebirth.